CSU's, and it is, we worked at Mount Evans, but we're using the CSU one because we're on CSU's own right now. And before we start that, we also wanted to say that we're going to be referring to Mount Evans as Mount Evans throughout this presentation. However, it is currently undergoing a name change to Mount Blue Sky, which was selected by the Arapaho and Cheyenne tribes.
Colorado State University acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is a traditional and ancestral homeland of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and people.
This was also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other Native nations.
These words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard. Highest nations have to their traditional homeland, a renewed and reaffirmed.
CSU is a land grant institution, and we accept that our mission must encompass access to education and inclusion.
And significantly, that our founding came at a dire cost to Native nations and peoples whose land this university was built upon.
This acknowledgement is the education and inclusion we must practice and recognize in our institutional history, responsibility, and commitment.
This is the microphone. You can kind of get yourself that they're talking, some comments, and it might just be sort of.
Hey, don't play again. Escape. Okay. All these technical difficulties. Okay, but we're like in a weird situation. It's not like the big one. Full screen. Oh well, I'm gonna leave it. All right.
Moving on. The purpose of our project was to develop a proposal for a mountain campus at Echo Lake Lodge, which is located on Mount Evans. And Echo Lake Lodge is an historic building that is owned by Denver Mountain Parks, and it currently is functioning as a gift shop and a restaurant. However, the lease for that building for those concessionaires ends on December 31st of this year. So Denver Mountain Parks is looking to figure out what to do with the building after that lease ends. And we're hoping that they are open to using it in a way that better aligns with what their mission is, to serve the Denver people and get the Denver people connected to their Denver parks. So one way to do that is through the development of a mountain campus, which the Denver Zoo is interested in facilitating. The Denver Zoo has a history with Denver Mountain Parks of trying to facilitate some sort of field campus, and they feel that Mount Evans is an excellent location for it, and that it would be a great opportunity for education and research. So the goal of our project was to determine if there's interest in a mountain campus at Echo Lake Lodge, and if a mountain campus could help increase Denver residents' access to the mountains and provide opportunities for education or research. Mount Evans is a 14er, and it is the 14th highest peak in Colorado, and it also is the highest paved road in the US. And because of that and its proximity to Denver, it's a very popular spot to visit and has high recreational use. The wilderness area on Mount Evans is spatially heterogeneous, and it has 5 different climate zones: subalpine zone, an alpine zone, a 10,000-year-old endangered wetland called a fen, and various riparian and foothills types of areas. It also has a variety of different threatened and endangered plant species, as well as a variety of different animals. So it's a very biologically diverse area, and it is being considered as a potential conservation area. There are 2 Denver parks on Mount Evans. The one that we are focusing on is Echo Lake Park, and the other one is called Summit Lake Park, and it's at the actual summit of Mount Evans. And because of the high recreational use in this area, there has been a lot of human-wildlife conflict, and an ecosystem is very fragile. So there's been some damage to the ecosystem, and human-wildlife conflict has even resulted in injuries and deaths because of the trash and the human waste and the salt from the road and other issues that are drawing animals such as bighorn sheep and mountain goats into the area. So it's a highly valuable research location because people are studying the climate issues, the road runoff, the human-wildlife conflict, and the transmission of disease between different animal species, just for some examples. Echo Lake Park itself is located at 10,600 feet and is 616 acres. And the park itself is located right at the access road entrance to get to the peak of Mount Evans, so everybody has to pass right by it to go to the peak. And the road up there is open seasonally, so it's open from Memorial Day to Labor Day, depending on the weather. And the area is very complex in its management because the park, like I said, is owned by Denver Mountain Parks, but the access road to the summit is managed by Denver Mountain Parks as well as the Forest Service. And then the area surrounding the park is Mount Evans Wilderness Area as well as Forest Service land. And then to further complicate things, the scenic byway is maintained by Colorado Department of Transportation and multiple entities, including the Forest Service, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and multiple universities are currently doing research on the area. So there is a lot of stuff going on, and it is complex in who's doing what up there. The park itself has multiple trails, it has a lake, it has parking, and it has Echo Lake Lodge. Echo Lake Lodge is about 95 years old, and it only takes about an hour to get to from Denver. It was originally designed for overnight guests, so there are sleeping rooms on the 2nd floor and a central lodge area on the main floor, as well as a separate dining area, and there's bathrooms and Wi-Fi. And outside of the lodge, there's picnic areas, a parking lot, there's camping space, there's Forest Service camping literally right across the road, and there are trails all around. So it's a good location to potentially locate a mountain campus. And the 2008 Denver Parks Master Plan actually included a line in order to improve the parking and create more trails in the area, but that has not happened yet. And the lodge itself is used by a variety of people, so tourists and locals, and even search and rescue bases out of the lodge, sometimes for Mount Evans rescues.
Moving on, so currently there's a lot of social context and conflict within the community because of this decision to terminate the lease. The current concessionaires have run their gift shop and restaurant business for over 57 years up there and have become very important to the community. The termination of this lease, as Julia said, is final at the end of this year. And because of that, there has been conflicting information circulating about the nature of this termination, which has led to this coming out in news articles. We spoke to some people up at Echo Lake Lodge and some people in the community, which appear to have mixed or negative feelings about the situation, where because people consider it such a community hub and a necessary source of facilities, education, and a source for people to have visitor safety, it's come out as a very negative, sorry, losing train of thought. It's come out very negatively in the press and towards Denver Mountain Parks. The lack of transparency about the situation has led to lots of rumors about what's going to happen with with Echo Lake Lodge, such as high-end hotels, Denver Mountain Parks, offices, a wedding venue, or other things as well. However, that has yet to be determined. It is up to Denver Mountain Parks Board to determine that, hence why we are doing this presentation, as we will be pitching this to them as well. However, overall, we wanted to be it's important to be cognizant of these local attitudes towards the changes that are occurring here because it is such an important part of the community. However, we also had to keep in mind why Denver Mountain Parks chose to terminate this lease. So a lot of complex emotions and historical ties to this lodge. Why are mountain campuses even important? Why are we even pitching this as an option? Well, first, they can address equity and access to outdoor recreation, which is very important for both your well-being and just positive attitude. But barriers to participation outdoors have been increasing, including limited financial resources, limited transportation, the community, oh, man, I just okay. So, but mountain campuses can help address these barriers. First and foremost, they can, with field campuses, field campuses can increase students' retention in STEM fields, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In an article written by a fellow last name of Green, he found that mountain campuses could also increase participation in the outdoors through education by specifically targeting institutions that serve traditionally underserved students. Underserved student groups can include, but are not limited to, minority ethnic groups, women, low income, and first-generation students, which are the majority populations at the educational institutions we work with. Field courses are another important aspect that can be pivotal learning experiences, especially in ecological sciences and related fields, because field learning allows you to have actual applied application of skills, instills new mindsets, and deepens understanding and relationships in the field. In addition, field courses can improve participation with underserved students by increasing their it's been shown to increase graduation rates and GPAs, as well as bridge that gap between non-minority and minority groups in STEM. It can also increase the ability to do science or self-efficacy that is gained from applied learning, such as the type that could occur at Echo Lake Lodge if it becomes a mountain campus, could relate it for students who might never have considered it before. Over the last few decades, there's been a decrease in mountain campuses overall, but an increase in university and national park partnerships, which have seen a lot of success over the last few years. These type of campuses, these type of university governmental organization partnerships can help mitigate a lot of the challenges that mountain campuses have through this partnership, which again is just showing how Echo Lake Lodge is uniquely suited to be a successful mountain campus. One of our primary stakeholders in this project was the Denver Zoo, which is also our project partner. There's been a lot of informal talks with the Denver Zoo's field conservation department and Denver Mountain Parks over the last few years about creating a mountain campus for underserved universities within the Denver area, and Mount Evans is a great place to start. The zoo has been involved with on Mount Evans previously and currently in a research capacity concerning human wildlife conflict between mountain goat and bighorn sheep, as well as the transition of diseases. The zoo has also had a history of successful collaboration with a variety of organizations and individuals by creating a field campus in the past at Rio Mora Wildlife Refuge and Conservation Area in New Mexico, from a ranch to that what is now a wildlife refuge. The zoo also helped facilitate courses there for the universities, which we also worked with. Prior to even starting this project, we heard the goals of Denver Zoo, which were they wanted the lodge to be partly used as a residential research station, also for research and education purposes for underserved students from Denver community colleges and universities, specifically those that don't have access to a mountain campus currently. They are open to other uses of the property, including for K through 12 education, zoo camps, city camps, or even research from other organizations. But their primary objective is to expand access to both research and educational experiences for colleges and universities within Denver metropolitan area. They also want to be able to show that conservation work matters. This is a big project of theirs, is to spread the word and have outreach and educational elements with their conservation projects. Our contacts within the zoo have described the zoo's role in this collaboration as more of a facilitator, a collaborator, or just filling in the gaps that other stakeholders are missing. The other main stakeholder was Denver Mountain Parks. They are operated by the city of Denver under Denver Parks and Recreation, and their constituents are Denver residents. Denver Mountain Parks, as the owner of the property and lodge, they are the main decision maker in this process and have most of the power in this context. Ultimately, the property is theirs, so all and majority of the risk and associated costs will fall on them. Therefore, their suggestions and requirements carried higher weight as this proposal was developed. Denver Zoo or Denver Mountain Parks has expressed a desire to use Echo Lake Lodge to increase the connection to Denver residents, publics to the mountains, as well as fulfilling their goal of serving the public, including by maintaining concessions, bathrooms, visitor access, possibly a small gift shop, as well as a potential for education and informational outreach. All these goals were stated from the two main stakeholders before we even started our project and spoke to anybody else outside of these two. And our final stakeholders were the professors and staff from the universities and colleges within Denver, specifically the Community College of Denver, Metropolitan State, and Regis University, all of which are in the boundaries of the Denver metropolitan area. It was important that we targeted the schools within the boundaries of Denver because that is the taxpayer base and a priority for Denver Mountain Parks. Additionally, these groups are primarily have high populations of underrepresented students. They're currently MSU, as in Metropolitan State, and the community colleges are state schools and are designated Hispanic serving institutions, meaning the majority of their student body population is of Hispanic population. And Regis is in the process of becoming a designated university Hispanic serving institution. And large portions of their student body are first generation students, student of color, transfer students, or self-identified as underrepresented.
We wanted to create a proposal that would meet the vision of Denver Mountain Parks and provide opportunities for education and research to meet the goals of the zoo. So we created 3 phases to investigate what challenges and opportunities might be present. Phase 1 was conducting interviews with a variety of stakeholders and users. Phase 2 was creating a survey from the interview data and distributing that to a variety of people. And then phase 3 was creating an actual proposal in the form of a report and a pamphlet that accompanies that in order to distribute that to the Denver Mountain Parks Board of Directors and the Denver Zoo. For the interviews for phase 1, we interviewed 3 different groups of people. One of those groups was employees of Denver Mountain Parks and the Denver Zoo. One of those groups was professors or researchers at our target universities. And one of the groups was directors of mountain campuses. And we chose to interview those groups because we felt like the employees and the researchers and professors would give us a really good idea of what the vision and potential usage of the site could be. And we decided to talk to mountain campus directors because we felt like they could give us a lot of background information and insider kind of knowledge that we might not have had. So from them, we got a lot of information about funding structures, logistical challenges, their thoughts on equity and inclusion in the mountain campus realm, and a variety of other information that we might not have even known to ask. Our interviews took the format of semi-structured informational interviews, and there were 5 sections to them, and 12 questions. So we had an intro section where we asked about the individual's history with mountain campuses and their role of their institution. We asked about their vision for the site and their potential plan for its future use. We asked about potential benefits, potential challenges, and then if they had any concluding remarks. We had a total of 14 interviews, and we transcribed and coded all of those interviews in order to get our biggest findings. And so I'll talk about our 5 key findings. First, everyone we spoke to said that increasing access to the mountains is extremely important, and in addition, that equitable access to the mountains is extremely important. Many of the people that we talked to spoke about how students that they knew had grown up in Denver and never experienced the mountains before. And one person even said that a lot of these students are the ones that shockingly grow up in Colorado and have never been to the mountains, because the mountains still have this perception of being the rich white place. They also overwhelmingly wanted multiple ages and types of users, not just students, to be able to access the space. And it was reiterated how important it was that the potential mountain campus is close to Denver, because that can further increase accessibility. Our second key finding was that a mountain campus is an excellent opportunity for education if it's located at Echo Lake Lodge. People repeatedly talked about how field experiences can be pivotal learning experiences, and you can really have a meaningful engagement with learning and learn new skills during field experiences. In addition, student research opportunities were brought up frequently as important ways to get involved and to really learn. And one person said, from a teaching perspective, field experiences are unparalleled with respect to inspiring students. I wouldn't be a biologist if I hadn't had field experiences. Our third key finding was that collaboration can be a benefit, but also a challenge. It can be a benefit because people who are involved in the collaboration are able to build new relationships and expand their individual skill sets as a result of those group interactions. It can be a challenge because of scheduling conflicts in general, a lack of communication, or issues sharing space. Kind of in the same vein, we also learned that strong leadership is extremely important in a mountain campus setting. Therefore, it will be important moving forward for anyone moving forward with this mountain campus to address these challenges early on to mitigate them as well. Fourth, and this concern was brought up by every single person that we spoke to, was cost. Everyone said that cost would be the biggest barrier and the biggest concern. This is especially true for community college students because they generally have less financial flexibility, less time, more drains on their resources, and simply might not be able to go on an expensive overnight course or even go in for a weekend. To attract students to the courses, it will be essential to reduce costs or find flexible ways to deal with cost of attendance to make this mountain campus successful. In addition, previously the lodge was a hub in the community, and it was mentioned by multiple interviewees that it is important to maintain that moving forward. Like Cass said, the lodge was used for things you might not have thought of, such as people who were unprepared for the weather would buy sweatshirts. They buy water, they buy food. So those are important things that need to be kept in mind moving forward, as well as accessing the summit of Mount Evans to download a pass, and Echo Lake Lodge provided the Wi-Fi for people who provide how to download their passes. So overall, that would be important to remember moving forward.
Now we'll go on to phase 2, which was our survey. Our survey, we used an online platform, Qualtrics, and this survey was electronically distributed to the professors of all 3 universities, as well as Denver Mountain Parks and Denver Zoo employees. We also asked our interviewees and in the email that distributed the survey to pass this along to other relevant people who to reach a wider audience. And we did this survey to gain more concrete data from our interviews. We developed our survey to focus on who, when, what, and how Echo Lodge could be used. Our survey addressed the following: what the vision would be for a mountain campus, the opportunities a mountain campus could bring, who the primary user groups would be, how long these user groups would use, how long the lengths of stay and how often they would use it, how these user groups intended to use the mountain campus, and if they're open to sharing the space with other groups. And then finally, we asked what amenities are needed versus desired to successfully use this mountain campus or use the lodge for a mountain campus. We also want to iterate, there was an error with our survey where we accidentally distributed a draft version. So we were unable to collect all the data we had hoped. However, we were able to gain valuable data from our survey either way. We first asked our respondents to rank 6 options describing the vision or mission of this mountain campus. We had them rank 1 for the highest and 6 for the lowest. The highest ranked choice that was chosen most often was to foster students' ecosystem stewardship through ecological research, education, and the stewardship of the natural world. We felt this was very important because we wanted to have a background and a base to start with to develop our proposal to the Denver Mountain Parks Board. Then we asked what the opportunities a mountain campus could provide. And they also ranked the importance of specific opportunities from mountain campus for a mountain campus using a Likert scale of 1, not important at all, to 3, most very important. The highest ranked opportunities, as you can see from the orange bars on the graph, were students from traditionally underserved communities to have access to the mountains and a venue for education. We felt this was important. One surprise for me was how low collaboration rate, considering how often it was brought up in our interviews. But the 2 ones that were important is also important because the 3 schools that we worked with, again, have high populations of underserved, traditionally underserved community students. So we read a lot about the benefits of a mountain campus that could have on students, and we wanted to see what outcomes our respondents believed were most important. Again, we asked the respondents to rank the importance of specific outcomes for the mountain campus from 1 being not important at all to 3 extremely important. And as you can see from the graph, again, the orange bar and student learning was the most important. Nobody said it wasn't at all. So that is the most important thing. When will these groups actually be able to use it? We wanted to see how soon these groups would be able to use it if the proposed mountain campus were to become available. In 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years from this summer, when we asked from the survey, and to indicate the actual likelihood they would be able to use it if it were. This was also important because Denver Mountain Parks expressed to us that they did not want to transition after updating the building. They did not want to transition this into a mountain campus without having groups already saying that they were interested in going. They didn't want to have to go out and find these user groups and pitch it to them. So they wanted to have people already interested and willing to go. And as you can see, within 2 to 3 years, everybody, an overwhelming majority, would be able to use it, with the orange bars being yes and the red bars being maybe. A few other findings that we found were the necessary amenities to be successful were Wi-Fi and indoor classroom space. All the other amenities were desired, but were not necessary to be successful. Another finding we found was that the majority of our respondents said the primary user groups would be from undergraduate or graduate students. However, there is a caveat that the majority of our student respondents were likely professors or educators, so that could have skewed our preferred primary user groups. However, there was interest among all the user groups we mentioned in this question. This was also a question that was more refined in our final version that wasn't published, but we still felt it was important to talk about through our data. And finally, phase 3, our deliverables. It was asked to create a 1-page pamphlet for the board of directors that they could quickly read over. So we created a 1-page pamphlet for them to look at and for our pitch, as well as a full report on the background, history, and more detailed findings of our data that they could also look at. We also decided to make a collaboration report, and as we see a report on the collaboration as we saw it for CLTL and for our own learning and reflection on what we believe the strengths and weaknesses are of this specific collaboration for our future going forward.
This slide is taken directly from our small pamphlet, and I just want to say that we heard over and over how excited everyone that we talked to was about this idea, especially because of how close it is together. And some of our key findings were that this mountain campus has the potential to increase access to the mountains and the potential to help educate students from Denver colleges and universities and engage organizations in effective collaboration. And by having recreational and educational opportunities, potentially inspire more people to care about the mountain environment. And it would serve as a location for research, which could help increase mountains and plants. So for our report on the collaboration, we had to define what we felt a successful collaboration was. And some of those characteristics included when the organizations and communities involved have shared goals, when there's an open dialogue and an ability to communicate through challenges, when the groups involved can work together to make decisions, when there's a willingness to compromise, and additionally, research has shown that when communities are involved and when stakeholders involved are willing to share resources, that is also a good indicator of a strong collaboration. So first I'll talk about the strengths as we see it from this collaboration. First of all, the zoo is committed. They started doing research on Mount Evans in some ways specifically so they could become involved on Mount Evans and potentially have a way to move forward. They also have offered up their graduate program to do a test run of the facility. So we think that's a very good indicator of commitment. And there's a lot of power between Denver Mountain Parks and the Denver Zoo. There's a lot of power, and power is definitely useful for getting things done. There's also strong leadership and leadership support from the areas of Denver Mountain Parks and the Denver Zoo that we spoke to. And as I said earlier, strong leadership is essential for the success of a mountain campus. So we think this is a very good indicator of the strength of the collaboration moving forward. Additionally, the zoo has strong relationships and a good reputation in the conservation field, both in Colorado and even abroad. And their ability to work as a facilitator and their willingness to work as a facilitator is a good indicator of their ability to work well within this collaborative environment. There is also a ton of passion from everyone we spoke to, from the professors to all the groups that we spoke to, about this idea. And that's really one of the core important things to have to move forward with this project. And many of the individuals we spoke to, specifically from the professor group in the zoo, have innovative mindsets. And that can be really essential for thinking outside of the box, especially with a project like this that seems really daunting to get off the ground from the get-go. We also saw some potential weaknesses. One of those was that the communication was not great between organizations or within organizations. There was also a fear of failure, we thought, because these organizations, from the universities to Denver Zoo to Denver Mountain Parks, are so large and they have a lot riding on the decisions that they make. So there was definitely a bit of a fear of using resources, human power, and political goodwill on a project that was not guaranteed to succeed. And that is one of the reasons, as Cass said, that we developed the pamphlet, because we wanted to have some form of evidence, as it were, that this does have the potential to be successful, and there are a lot of good things that can come out of this. I think that because of the fear of failure, there was a lack of transparency about what was going on. We, to this day, are not sure how they're going to decide what to do. So that is definitely a lack of transparency. And because of that, there is a lack of trust between organizations. And due to the bureaucratic nature of the organizations involved, Denver Mountain Parks, the zoo, and universities are all huge. It can be difficult to trust that the other organization is going to be able to carry out what they might say they're going to, because they have to go through so many bureaucratic hoops to get anything done. And Cass and I felt that there was a potential lack of legitimacy because of the trust, the transparency, and those fears, but also just because of how this project has gone about. We do not feel like they did a great job of being transparent and clear, and that potentially has made the project feel less legitimate in the eyes of the public, who don't know what's going on and have no way of finding out what is going to go on. And there was no shared understanding of the deeper goals at play. We feel that there was a shared surface level understanding of, yay, a mountain campus, but then there was not a deeper understanding of the exact way that is going to come about or what it's going to be used for. And moving forward, it would be really important to communicate about and get on the same page and possibly reconcile those goals if possible. Overall, however, we felt like this collaboration, the strengths definitely outweighed the weaknesses. And we feel like that is a good indicator moving forward. So additional conclusions are that it is really important to incorporate all users early on. And this includes those professors who are willing to test their classes out in the first year and that kind of stuff. Because if users are incorporated early on, they are much more likely to feel included and feel heard and feel committed to the project. Additionally, we see this as an opportunity to strengthen connections and build collaboration. And I think that if the organizations involved are able to see it as an opportunity as well, they might be more likely to take advantage of it. Research has shown that collaborations can enhance the capacity of organizations to do good work or conservation work. And we feel like that is especially important in the conservation field where enhancing capacity is very important. And this is a great opportunity to enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion in the mountain setting if it is done intentionally and if it is done well. We think that there is a really strong opportunity here to take advantage of that and facilitate courses for students and subsidize costs and make it so that more types of people can experience the mountains, but it does need to be done thoughtfully and intentionally from the beginning. Moving forward, it will be very important that the zoo and Denver Mountain Parks are on the same page about what they want this location to be if they choose to move forward as a mountain campus. And the greatest value lies in what it can give back to the people and how people of Denver can take advantage of and learn from this location. We also feel like because it has such high potential, it would be really amazing if the zoo and Denver Mountain Parks were able to come together and create this mountain campus and for it to be around for decades or even centuries and really be a great example of what collaboration can do. We also wanted to have some individual reflections about our time working on this project. As Cass said, with the error on the survey, Personally, I took that a little harder than Cass, coming from a quantitative science background. It was difficult for me to get over the fact that our data was less than I felt it should be, and we did not have the time and resources to redo it. And Cass really helped work through that and took the lead on that section of the project for sure. And I think it was a good way for me to realize that it's not always about the data. And especially in conservation, it's about the people and the relationships and what you can learn from them as well. If it was just about the data, climate change wouldn't be a problem. So it's definitely about the people, and it's important to keep that in mind for me moving forward. And then as well, I feel like our experiences in CLTL doing our personal leadership plans and personal leadership work is super beneficial. Especially a project I worked on, a book called Crucial Conversations. I feel like I was much more able to communicate with Cass and be a better partner to her because I was able to communicate much better than I would have prior to this program. And I feel like we were a very successful partnership as a result of both of our growth throughout the year as partners and friends and coworkers, I guess. But overall, I feel like it was a great project experience, and it was just a really cool thing to see unfold in front of us as we were working on it.
So building off of hers, the survey was a challenge, but we talked about adaptability constantly throughout the year. And I saw it as a great learning experience to see how I could grow from that. I kind of knew this before going in, but not in a project capacity, but I thrive well in chaos. And that's where like Julia definitely helped me out, is because she's very organized, where I am not, and I'm a very big picture person, and she was able to keep me on track in that. And so I feel like I grew from that. Being able to talk to her and it not destroy our friendship or take it personally, of just being able to work through those was huge. And also, there was a lot of abstract concepts that we did in class, and it was really nice to be able to use those in practice and see how they can unfold and turn into the end of a project, even when you do have errors. And it can be embarrassing when you send out stuff with grammatical errors or just like complete chunks missing to professors and people you're working with and potentially could try to find a career with. But it all worked out in the end. We were able to figure it out and get enough data from it that we do feel relevant. So and we're still really great friends at the end of it. So that's huge. We didn't take things personally. It was very we were able to keep those separate, and that's a big thing for me. So those are some of my reflections, and we are done. Thank you.